So my name's Andrew Stevens, and my last job was at Duxbury High School, where I was for 10 years, from 2007 until June 30th of this year. I think it's the learning the culture of this place and really understanding what makes this place tick, and being able to bring some of the things that I've learned along the way and ask questions and try to get an understanding of why things are the way they are, and really also just getting an understanding of the many resources that this place has that are student-centered, and understanding those, and then really trying to move where we can and where it makes sense this place forward. That's really exciting to me. I've worked in high schools from when I student taught in Vermont, and some long-term substitute gigs that I had at various schools, and at Newton North and at Hull High School. Every school has its own culture. Every school has its own way of doing things, and I've learned not to come into anything with preconceived notions. I really try to get an idea of what is the reality where I am, and what worked in a previous place may not work in the new place I'm in. One of the big reasons why Lexington was an interesting and cloying employment opportunity for me was being able to have a more diverse student population. I actually missed that from my experience in Newton, and so I'm looking forward to, a community is one where there are multiple perspectives that are at play, and that's what I miss the most, and that's what I most look forward to at Lexington. The top three, I'd say one of the biggest one is overscheduling, where there are kids who are taking on a very significant academic load, and then on top of that might be having music lessons, and also playing a sport, and also engaging in club activities, and also involved in co-curricular activities that involve travel. All of that compresses time and builds stress. I think that technology is a large cause of student stress, especially social media. And the perception that kids have around the need for that in their lives. I have daughters, I understand it, and it's a great communication tool. It's a fantastic study tool when used right, but it's also one that can cause great stress because you know everything that's going on in other kids' lives, and they do about you. And then, the other one I think is the pressure for, especially for a community like Lexington, is the push with regard to college, and there are perceptions with regard to what kids need to do to have that edge, some of which are true and others of which I'm not entirely in agreement with, that drive a lot of the choices that kids make with regard to their academic choices that can really have a heavy load for them. And so kids have a lot that they're carrying. So those are three that immediately come to mind. So in terms of combating it, I don't know, with regard to student stress, a lot of it is, and another aspect of it is a lot of the student stress I've found is when, in spite of parents and teachers and adults talking to kids about reducing kids, it's intrinsic as well. The kids are very aware of where they sit with regard to their peers. And so, trying to de-escalate some of the long-term kind of effects of a grade not being where a kid wants is not the end of the world, and trying to get that to a part where it's not as internalized by the student, that's a way to try to, but it's really difficult. You know, trying to get kids to really, you know, the whole point of it, I guess, is not to solve from a school setting, but it's try to give kids tools for how to navigate and cope. Because at some point, you're not going to get an A in everything. At some point, you know, we don't expect kids to be experts in everything. And it's okay, that's part of the growth process. Failure actually is a key part of succeeding. And the same thing is true with how do you navigate a difficult social environment. Giving the kids the tools by which they can make choices and be able to discern what is real and what is not for themselves, that's what I consider to be something successful that schools can do to combat, never to solve. Well, I think, you know, there are some professional qualities, there are some personal qualities in terms of what makes a good or a great principal. You know, it's hard because I'm only really talking about myself and in terms of what I've learned as a principal and maybe what my own personal experiences are with principals that I've run into. You know, I think you have to be accessible, I think balanced and calm, willing to look at problems as problems. I don't really personalize a lot because these are things that we need to have an analytical capability to be able to deconstruct what the various layers are with either an issue that's come up or with something that we want to do. It's really important to be able to pull back and see what the implications are going to be. And that means you have to be able to see the forest for the trees. But at the same time, schools are all about personal. Schools at their heart are relational, and so relationships are key at all levels. And so a really effective principal, while being able to be analytical and have the ability to make reasoned decisions based on a kind of passionless approach to an analysis of a situation, can't forget that this is relational business. At the end of my first year at Lexington High School, I anticipate that I'm going to learn a lot. You know, if I feel like I have a good kind of read on what the pulse of this place is, and that'll occur, that's a growth process. This entire year will be like that. I have a lot of people I have to talk to. All summer long I've been meeting with various adults. I haven't really had a chance to meet a lot of kids. That's the part I'm looking forward to the most. But that takes a year to really get an idea and to step back, because there's what I hear from other people about what their perceptions are of the strengths and the areas that we need to work on in the school, but those are tied to their own biases, and that's fine, and there's no judgment with that. That's a key part of what makes this place tick. But I also need to make my own mind up in terms of what my eyes tell me based on what I hear, with regard to, at the end of the year, hoping to have learned enough about this place to then craft some areas where we need to grow, and also to be able to trumpet the many, many, many good things that are happening here, the great things that are happening here. And if I can have a read on what those are at the end of the year, I'll be very happy, and that will have meant I've learned a lot.